2 months later, I quit my job that I've been in for 17 years. Can I still do this? I haven't done this for a while now.
After 17 years of building the biggest team in an established SaaS recruitment firm and a decade working in retail before that, Andy Strong walked away from everything he knew. He went to therapy to save a relationship. 8 sessions later, he ended that relationship, but he also quit his job and started his own recruitment agency from the bottom of his garden. In his first year, he had a modest business plan of maybe growing 2 or 3 people at most. Within 1 month, he landed 4 retained roles across 2 clients. By the end of year 1, he's done $1 million in revenue, made 39 placements, 100% retention rate. His team have now grown to 10 staff, and he's got a new managing director on the ground in the USA. And not a single one of his team have been lost.
I remember speaking with a venture capitalist May last year, and she'd said, look, I've been in your situation, and I think what you're going to learn over the coming year is what's more important is what you say no to than what you say yes to. And she was right.
When one of the biggest software companies in the world came calling with what could have been millions in revenue, Andy looked at the opportunity and said, no, this does not fit what he stands for. And I think this laser focus on the market and the way he wants to work is the true ingredient to his success. After listening to everything he had to say, there was one question I had to ask. Your life's gone through all sorts of changes, 17 years, you've built a team, you're successful. Why did it take 17 years to start your own business?
2 reasons I would say. One is a healthy respect and loyalty to the life that I was able to get in my previous company. And the other big one was ultimately just...
There are thousands of recruiters sitting there right now in other people's businesses wondering, is this their time? Andy sat there for 17 years. And this is what happened when he finally made the move. All right, so without further ado, Andy, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me.
No, pleasure. I just checked our communication, Andy, as we were talking off air. 23rd of September last year was our first interaction. So it's
okay. It
took us 6 months or so to get here. So I'm excited. I've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast, and hopefully you can give you something interesting to dig into.
Yeah, well, why not? Look, the big thing, you're going to do the introduction. I've done you a brief introduction, but I just want to say, look, we're at the point of as we record this, you are 12 months old pretty much right now.
Yep.
So well done, which is an amazing achievement in itself. You were, like you say, you were about 6 months old when we first reached out. The conversations, it felt like it'd be better to wait. So I'm glad we've got here. Before we get into the story, just give us that overview of who you are for people that have never heard of Andy and the business.
Sure. So I'm Andy Strong, founder of Strong Search. And we are specialists in hiring go-to-market teams for global software as a service organizations and AI, I need to say now, because some people seem to differentiate the two. And as you say, we've been going for a year now. And it's a search firm that help to identify, qualify, and attract top talent across EMEA, North America, and APAC.
Amazing. And you started the business, like I say, a year ago, but and named it after yourself, Strong Search. Was that something that took a while to figure out, or was it always going to be that?
It took a while to come to terms with the idea. I'm not naturally someone who's sort of that vain, but I kind of felt like my parents had blessed me with a surname that I had to do something with.
Yeah.
And then when Strong Search popped into my head, and you know what it's like, you think you have all these different names that go round and round and round, and you start planting a few of them with your friends and your family, and then Strong Search was the one that stuck, and seems to get positive feedback. And if there is any negative, it hasn't found its way to me yet, but.
That's exactly what it says on the tin, though, doesn't it? Strong Search. We're gonna run a Strong Search process. Yeah. We better had to.
Yeah.
So, looking at I've done a bit of background on you, Andy. I always do a bit of research, right? And it looks like you joined the industry, did a number of roles, and then I think was it your first recruitment role in around 2007? Am I right?
Yes. Yes, it will be.
Years in your previous employer.
Correct.
It's an interesting time just before the world crashed. that you started in the industry?
Yeah, it wasn't the ideal timing in some respects, but you could argue that when you sort of come into the industry when it's particularly tough like that, you kind of learn from the hard knocks, right?
Yeah.
And it stands you in good stead. But yeah, been doing it for I think it's about 18 years, something like that.
What got you into recruitment in the first place?
A desire to get out of retail, because I was planning on having kids, and the B2C retail world was one that I'd worked in for a long time, and I felt like I'd served my time in that particular industry. But recruitment had always been of interest to me. I'm very much a people person, and the opportunity came about where actually my former boss came into one of the shops that I was looking after, and we got chatting, and then the next thing I've worked with him for 17 years. So
what were you running? What sort of retail were you running?
It was mobile phones.
Right. And you were leading the stores, were you?
Yeah. So I'd gone into a couple of different companies. I worked for a local firm on the South Coast, became one of their youngest area managers, but unfortunately they became insolvent, despite my area being one of the top performing ones, of course. But that was an interesting time. And I needed a job. So I basically went to Phones for You, and that was an interesting experience. I learned a lot during that time. I can't believe that I was there as long as I was. But again,
how old were you when you met your old boss and while you were in retail? What age were you at that point?
Late 20s.
Right. Which is arguably the perfect fit to start in recruitment. Late 20s, life experience. You said you want to start a family. You've got real need. You've got that kind of desire.
100%.
You're not a 21-year-old coming out of uni who doesn't really know what they want. Like you've already experienced a bit of that. So I can feel how that's a good fit. So, I don't want to go through 18 years of or 17 years of your time at Oakstone, but how did you, if we're going to go on a high level over that period of time before you set your own business up, like how would you describe the trajectory of your career?
It's always been in and around, like, recruitment has a very strong overlap with sales, albeit that it's much more consultative in the recruitment world than the one that I'd come from. And I've kind of naturally, that sounds a bit pretentious, but I'm naturally a leader. I'm someone that kind of leads from the front line. I'm certainly not a dictator. So there was an opportunity for me to be able to come into recruitment where they wanted to build an office locally to where I am on the South Coast. But I needed to learn recruitment first. It was not going to be feasible for me to build a team without actually understanding the role inside and out first. So that was a pretty sharp learning trajectory to pick that up. And then from there, I went on to then build a team in the South Coast. That then.
So where did you work to learn? Did you go into London or something?
No, it was just me and my former boss that were in a very small, cozy office in Poole. Right. We travel up to the mothership, which was in Burnham at the time, and then Beaconsfield. We'd go up there once or twice a week. Right. But to your point around the time of life, I was certainly very hungry. I'd had relative success in retail, but wanted more. And one of the things that I really desired that recruitment was able to provide to this day is the ability to get out what you put in. Like, I felt like I was having a pretty rough time of giving everything, but not necessarily getting the breaks back in terms of the desired results because of things that were outside of my control. And whilst nothing, recruitment, you can't control everything. It's a much better platform, I believe, whereby you can get out what you put in.
100%.
When it comes to effort, when it comes to all the right attributes of honesty, integrity, and just wanting to do the right thing. So, that's what brought me in. And subsequently, throughout my time at Oakstone, I was able to build a very solid team that went on to become the biggest and most successful delivery team in their 28-year history during my time that I was there.
What did that look like?
It looked like having a team of, at its peak, probably 18 people, split, mostly based in and around the South Coast, but also I ended up having responsibility for the person that was responsible for running the North America business. And yeah, I mean, it was ultimately a question of bringing in and managing and nurturing solid relationships with attractive software companies, and then working with the team with a group of people that were then enabled to deliver. And
was your role always market facing as your team grew, or did you ever become like totally internal? When you got 18 staff.
No, I was always involved in client facing responsibility, and managing most of those client relationships, but not all of them. So yeah, it was all. I've always remained hands on and very much, in with the team.
Would you still be filling personally? Were you still filling jobs?
Occasionally, yeah. I mean, when you have sort of high level, C-level, VP level roles that come in, and the people that you need to contact personally, it's just a more productive method of delivery for me to go in and handle those. But yeah, 95% of the billings came from my team delivering that was supporting me and the team to be able to deliver.
And did you manage to develop any of the team into being as good as you on the client side?
Yes, I did. And we had some long-standing relationships that went on to be managed by a couple of individuals within that organization at that time. And it's something that I've been much more proactive to do since moving to Strong Search. It's probably something that I should have been doing more of, frankly. But the way in which the business was set up and the way in which we were kind of remunerated, you kind of needed to keep a certain level of involvement to ensure that you were able to pay your own.
You weren't. Yeah,
you needed to bill a certain amount. Yeah. Otherwise, you're making everyone else around you good money, and you're on beans on toast.
I remember that when I became a manager in my role, and I looked at the numbers and I was like, "You're literally halving my take home." Like the projection is the team grows, but my salary and comms go down by, well, my comms and structure and everything it goes down by about 50% in total. He's like, "Yeah, but it's a better job."
Yeah.
Like, for who? I was like, I didn't even want that. You told me you wanted me to do it. Now, again, I'm not saying you went through that, but I was like, for who? And actually, in my own experience, people management isn't a better job for me. It's not. It's not how I want to live my life. It's some people love it, others don't. Yeah. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not completely against it. Like, I've got a good team around me, but I'm also not. I do prefer external client work, if I'm honest. Like, I think that's where I enjoy my time more. So
I think you can earn more money doing that. Well, I don't think. I know you can. And there were individuals where they knew that they didn't really want to be doing that, and honestly, they didn't need to, because I had that delivery team there that they were able to access. That meant that they could just focus on billing, and it was very lucrative for them. And I think it's important that people do what they want to do. And if like I said, I'm not sort of power crazy. It's not like I have to have a team of people, but I do get a buzz out of bringing people into my team, helping them, nurturing them, getting them up to speed, and then watching them be successful, watching them go and buy their first nice car, watching them go and move into their first house. That's what it's about. And along the way, if you can be successful as a team, then you draw your own paycheck at the same time.
Sure. So how did your life change over 17 years before you set yourself up?
Oof. Well, quite a bit. I got married. I had twin daughters who are now 17. I got divorced. I then got engaged. And I'm single again. and have been for about 11 months. So, yeah, my life on a personal level has been quite interesting in that regard. But yeah, I've always been very sort of career focused, very passionate about work that I do. Back in the day, I used to want to spin records and get paid to do that in Ibiza, but that was never really going to fly. But I did come out of retirement about 2 years ago.
You got a little look away, Lineker, Andy. You could be out there in Ocean Beach Club in.
That's what they used to call me in my last company.
A bit of Wayne Lineker. I like it.
Thanks for that, Sean.
If anyone's listening to this on Spotify, I'm like,
anyone that knows me, as soon as they hear this, they're going to be falling about laughing their heads off. But, there is a bit of that.
And also, this is what I get on YouTube and confirm it because he looks just like him. Anyway, so where, your life's gone through all sorts of changes. 17 years, you've built a team, you're successful. What's going through my head is, why did it take 17 years to start your own business? Because you strike me as someone who probably could have done this 5 years in or whatever. Like you're clearly highly capable. Why did it take that long? First question, then I want to expand on that.
Two reasons I would say, and I've obviously thought about this a lot. One is a healthy respect and loyalty to the life that I was able to get in my previous company. It gave me everything that I wanted. When I wanted to make that move out of retail, the reasons of why I wanted to get there, the ability to be able to get out what you put in, it gave that. It was a good environment to work in. I'd learned a lot from being in that environment, and I felt valued, and I felt like it was an organization that I was really kind of integral to. So the thought of leaving and going and working for another recruitment company kind of never really came into my mind. You always have that kind of, wonder what I could do if I did this on my own type thought. And you'd be like, oh, no. And you sort of put it away in your head, and then it would come back again. And then just over time, it sort of niggles and grows and grows and grows. And you're right. I mean, I think probably 5 years, no. I think after 10 years, I would have been in a position to be able to have started a business. Would I have been able to have had the sort of success that we've had in the last year? Definitely not. And I always felt like I needed a reason to move. It wasn't going to be just for greed or for any other reason than that. And the other big one was ultimately just fear of failure.
Right.
You're actually growing,
honesty, isn't it?
Actually growing the kahunas to actually back yourself and go and do it. And really, it was in the last 3 or 4 years where I had everything that I've got now, but it took me that long to actually buy into myself and take the leap. And a lot of that largely was actually driven by at the beginning of last year. It was at a point in my life where it was discussed within sort of people around me that, or one particular person who was very close to me at that time, that maybe I would benefit from getting some therapy. And so I reluctantly agreed to do it. And 2 months later, I then pull out of an 8-year relationship and being with the person that I thought I was going to marry. And I quit my job that I've been in for 17 years.
Wow.
And a lot of that internal empowerment and self-worth and belief came from that therapist. And I never saw that coming. That was not why I was there.
I
But
don't want to go into too much of that for personal reasons, but like, what were the symptoms, if you can share? What were the symptoms that you were showing that led for other people to suggest therapy, never mind yourself?
yeah, well, ultimately, I was one of the symptoms was I was in a relationship that wasn't necessarily as good as it had been.
Yeah.
And there were concerns within there that I was drinking too much alcohol.
Okay.
I didn't believe that I was, but I was. Yeah, I mean, yeah, drinking more than I should, I guess you could say. But to me, it didn't feel like an alcoholism, let's say. And so consequently, I could see that it was causing strain in certain areas of my life, regardless of whether I thought it wasn't an issue. And what's the harm? What's the harm? Go and have the conversation. So yeah, I mean, largely they were the sort of drivers. And consequently, what it actually uncovered was that, I was in a particular kind of rut. Why did I feel like I needed to go home and have a 1 or 2 beers at the end of the day? Why did I need that to be able to unwind from what had transpired throughout the day? And then, there were various kind of reasons for that, but a lot of them were kind of to do with frustration and not being in full control of my destiny any longer, personally and professionally.
Right. You're almost on someone else's agenda. You live in someone else's.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, you feel like you are. You're not, because you've not taken control of that. But
yeah,
you've kind of let the situation overcome you a bit, and then you just, if you're someone that sort of just wants to sort of keep the peace and stay in your lane, then you can let that happen, and then before you know it, it all becomes kind of quite overbearing. So I would find myself wanting to go home, and as you're cooking dinner, you'd pour a glass of wine, or you might have a beer, and to me that didn't seem to be an issue. That wasn't a unanimous sort of decision within the house at that time, and so I kind of figured, well, let's go and have the conversation. And ultimately, what it turns out is that it's subjective, isn't it? To some person, you don't drink, right?
No.
But you did.
Yeah, 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah. Congrats. And there'll be reasons why you did, and there'll be reasons why you now don't.
Yeah.
And you will, everyone will have their own sort of view and opinion about what is enough, what is too much, and everything. None of that matters. It's more about why are you doing it, and what is driving you to do that. And so that, I mean, that's ultimately where we got to. And I've got a lot to thank Jill, because she has ultimately given me the keys back to my.
So how long was that process of going to the first therapy session and then quitting your job and ending a relationship?
It was literally about 7 or 8 sessions.
7 or 8 weeks then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That must have been a crazy time in your life, like, to think positive and negative. Like, there'd be so much emotion attached to that. Yes. I've been through those things. I've started a business and I got divorced and I've quit alcohol. I've done those 3 things.
Yeah.
I've walked away from a marriage that was a year in, that on the surface everyone's like, oh, it's great, and it was a fucking mess.
Yeah.
And I did that in the pandemic, and
right.
I've done that, and that was difficult. And I've started a business, doubted myself probably for a year and a half. Then I changed the plan completely at the last minute, did something completely different, which I then doubted for the first 2 years of doing this. Did I make the wrong move? So I can empathize with right? Things. No, but you've got something guides you along the way. Something guides you. And look, if it's external people as well, even better. If you can find those people that you can latch to, even if it's just for a period of time, it's amazing.
Yeah, Well, definitely. I mean, the therapist has been a revelation for me in enabling me to be where I am today. It came out of left field because I was kind of doing it for different motives, shall we say. And I was going in there with very low kind of expectations of getting any real value out of it. But yeah, ultimately, that's what's happened. Yes, it's been
did you stop drinking? Did you stop drinking, or have you carried on?
Well, not entirely, no. But the regularity of it certainly went down, and it was also like you know what you of course you know what it's like, but you get together with mates or whatever, and at the weekend or something like that, and then there's a point where people need to find the off, or okay, you've had enough, right? And that I couldn't find that switch. Whereas now I do. I know where it is, and frankly, I just don't want to go to that sort of extent because I'm not getting any younger. Feel like crap the next day, and I've got a very, very busy life with doing what we're doing here at A Strong Search, and ultimately as well, like I have a responsibility. Like I've never owned a business before, and obviously, and anyone that's been in this situation will know this firsthand. But when it's you and it's on your own, you're your own boss. You drive your own sort of destiny. You work as hard as you want to work for yourself. Then you start hiring other people. Other people now are on the payroll. Other people's like livelihoods and well-being and households are ultimately your responsibility as well now.
Yeah.
And how hard you work isn't now about you, it's also about them. Well,
let's go back a little bit. Take us back then to that moment where you've made the decision, you've quit your job. What did you like? Because my research says that you've got a CFO with Grant. Was he involved from the start? Was he a co-founding board advisor?
Yeah. So ultimately, when I made the decision when I was coming to make the decision that the time was right, I was actually headhunted, which proactively made me sort of consider life beyond. I went and met that company, and that wasn't really to be for either reason. But what it did do was kind of open my mind a bit around life outside of my previous employer, and there was two real options. One is to go and work with someone else. And I had another company based in the area, and a guy Martin, who's a top bloke. Yeah. And there was an opportunity where we could have worked together, and I would have been very happy to work for him, no doubt about it. Or the other option was to do it on my own. But what I didn't want to do was be a one-man band. I always felt like I had the network and the sort of motivation to want to build a team and to do the sort of large projects that we're able to do, like global reorgs, that you can't do if it's just you.
Yeah.
So I was discussing this with my financial advisor, and he said, well, interestingly enough, there's a couple of guys I know that have just exited a business. They're local, and they're looking for interesting investment opportunities. And so he connected us together, and we went and grabbed a Costa and talked about, by that point, I put some serious thought into, okay, what do I think I can do? What business plan would look like? And that's where Neil and Grant came in. Right. So they came in as investors primarily, and to help me with the area that I knew nothing about, which was setting up a business and also running the back office. Bearing in mind, my previous role, yes, I've been in it for a long time, but it was all very much sort of front of office. It was, we weren't getting involved with payroll and accounting and that sort of thing. So I knew that I was blissfully naive and unaware of what I was sort of letting myself in for in that regard. But these guys knew that really well. So we came to an agreement, and that's how it then sort of transpired. That okay, it was like, okay, you've got two options here now, and they're both great, but one's the one that's really kind of exciting you, and it's that itch that you've wanted to scratch your entire not your entire life, but certainly, for a long time.
So what did you position them? So what was the elevator pitch to them then, without all the detail of what were you going to create that they were like, yeah, we'll be a part of that?
Ultimately, to begin with, it was going to be a team of two over the course of a year. So for me to get up and running, win some new clients, and organically build a team of 2 or 3 people over the course of the first year. That was the headline plan. Do it, with a modest effect, based out of my office at the bottom of my garden, and just kind of build an initial business that had a level of profitability that enabled me to be able to sustain a reasonable sort of quality of life, if you like.
What sort of deal values are we talking in your market?
Average is about £20,000 to £23,000.
Right. Yeah. So it's strong fees. All perm?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all perm.
Yeah.
And what are the turnaround times like from actually someone signs a contract to actually them starting and you getting paid?
It depends. So we work on a retained and a contingent model. And obviously the benefit of the retainers is that you've got some revenue coming in early and then it's kind of staggered through.
Yeah.
The other benefit of that is that traditionally then you can also you can expect to get some payment within 14 to 30 days of the signature of the contract, rather than waiting to the start date. Whereas contingent is much more traditional, the way you would wait till the start date and then you get your payment terms 30 days later. That's a challenge when you do a lot of work in Germany.
Yeah.
And they have 3-month notice periods.
I was thinking that for a startup on your own, it doesn't matter how big the numbers are. If you're 6 months away from cash, that might be another decision where you think these guys can payroll me in the shorter term. Was that part 100%. Of the decision?
That was exactly why I wanted the backing. Yeah, I needed a backstop to be able to sort of just enable me to not crumble financially for the first 3 to 6 months. What I hadn't envisaged was being able to land what ended up being 4 retained roles across 2 clients in the first month.
What did those 4 retainers bring in that first month? Or what was the commitment from that?
Well, in terms of overall revenue, it probably would have totaled out about 80K, I would say, because one was 2 mid-market roles. Whereas a lot of the work that we do is typically more enterprise level. But that meant that, in the first month, I think we'd invoiced 25K, something like that.
How does that feel?
It felt incredible on the basis that, we've got a profitable business from day one in some respects, but the more overwhelming factor for me was, shit, I need to deliver these. And whereas I've been used to for the last 10 years minimum going, hey, here's a great role. Here you go, consultant A, you go and work on this. You're really good at these, and then leave them to then go and do their thing. It's now on me.
Yeah. How was that? How did that feel? Because that's something that I think put me off personally for daunting. A long time as well. It was like, do I really want to go back to that whole piece when I kind of built the job around what I wanted to do in the employer?
It didn't. I was never worried about doing it in the sense at the business planning stage, but when the actual time come around, and it's like, shit, can I still do this? And you kind of thinking I haven't done this for a while now. Now, fine, you work on this odd VP role, but that's not the same as working on a mid-market AE role in Germany.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ball game. So you have this doubt that creeps in, and then you're on your own. So you've got this sort of isolation feeling going on as well. And then just to tap it all off, you're then going through a breakup as well. And it's like, there's a lot going on. But what it did was just enable me to just right, this is your moment. Trust the process. You know what you're doing. Don't need to get funky here. Just follow, just do what you've been training and enabling a team of people to do for the last 10 years, and it will come good. And guess what? It worked. But you don't feel that at the time.
What were your hours like? If you were on your own, split up with someone, like what were you putting in like stupid hours? Like how did you run it? Because the kind of
yes and no. I mean, I tried. I've always, not always. That's not true. In the last 10 years, I've been really focused on trying to get an optimal work-life balance within reason. And I definitely haven't got it right. But yeah, I do. I try and make sure that a lot of the heavy lifting that you do is in sort of normal business hours. But inevitably, you're trying to get hold of people, and the people you want to get hold of are the best people, and the best people are busy during the day. So then they want to talk in the evening. So yeah, inevitably it creeps into the evening. But also what I am quite good at is being structured about what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. So if there are non-time critical tasks, then I will do those in the evenings or at the weekends. So yeah, I was expecting it to be very overwhelming, 12, 14-hour days, and sort of crawling into bed on a Friday and then you're sort of crawling back out on a Monday with very little in between. But I did actually feel like I was able to balance it quite well. And frankly, it was probably the distraction that I needed at that time, because it was then it enabled me to block out all the other crap that was going on.
Yeah.
So
I can empathize with that.
Yeah. But I had this kind of vision of it being, 14-hour days, bang, 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 bang. And that isn't ultimately how it worked out. If anything, I'm probably doing longer hours now, but we're covering more time zones, and we've got, I've got an employee now on a 8-hour time zone difference. So
All right, let's get back to the show. So what, if we, at the end of Q1 then, where were you at and what did your business partners say when you reflected on it?
Well, they were very happy because we ultimately hadn't had to dip into their wallet at all, really. I was very happy because we had got off to a flyer. From a revenue perspective, It was probably around 120, 140,000 at that point. But what really happened over the back end of that first quarter was that one of the companies that I brought in went on a significant global hiring wave, and needed to hire over a dozen people across 3 different continents. And I was fortunate that I was able to bring someone into the organization who I knew and who knew me, who was able to come in and hit the ground running.
So when did you make that first hire?
Probably in the 3rd month, I would say.
Right.
Back end of the 3rd month.
Did they work remotely, or did you then have to get a premises to work together?
So I'd been working remotely, but it was at that time that we moved into the Foundry, which is where I am now, which is a serviced office in Poole. And at that time, we were just hot desking. So upstairs, that just rows and rows of desks, the sort of affair. And I also knew that at that time, because of the scale of the volume of work that was coming through, that we were going to need more support. So I went on the hunt for an operations and marketing manager. I put an advert out. And actually, I thought, look, drink your own Kool-Aid. Go and headhunt who you think could be the best people in the local area. And proactively reached out to Ellen, who subsequently joined. And bearing in mind that was the first hire for the organization for someone who I'd not really known and didn't know what I was. Neither of us knew what we were letting ourselves in for. Her and Ollie made such a important, valuable difference to how the business was able to really then kick on from where it had been from that first quarter to then that second quarter. And they hit the ground running. And that was then where things really started to hot up.
So you decide one of your first hires is operations and marketing, which is very aligned to how I feel and think, but not necessarily in a traditional hire you'd make in the early days of recruitment business. We both know most of the industry is always just get more salespeople in, and then at some point get someone in to clean it up a bit and polish us up a bit. So what made you make that call in such an early stage?
Because I guess I always felt ambitious about what we could achieve, and the fact that the market that we're in is so vast, that I wanted to build our brand, and I wanted to also make sure that when we were going to bring in more recruiters, that we had the infrastructure to be able to enable them to come in and be successful quickly. And I also knew that myself and Ollie were going to need a lot of support also. So it was a bit of a no-brainer for me, but I couldn't that was more gut feel, and I guess kind of intuition. It wasn't necessarily that I'd predetermined. I do feel like, whilst I had a plan and I was very clear about where I wanted to get to, by that stage I was kind of going on instinct a little bit. And when this is your first time, that's an unnerving place to be, because you don't know. It feels like you don't know what you're doing. Inevitably you do, but that's not how it feels. So it's interesting that you say that most people don't kind of go in that direction. They go with the billers, because I knew I needed billing support, but equally, I was still on the tools, so to speak, and able to kind of provide in that regard as well.
When we spoke in September, you were talking about, one of the reasons you didn't want to do this so soon was because of the demand. There was so much demand. You were hiring people. You're at 10 people now. You weren't there then.
Yeah.
But to be at a demand, like a point where you're pushing the demand for your services in 6 months of launching a company, I think that's quite rare. It's what I'm talking about. It's what I believe in, right? So
Yeah.
you obviously have brought this person in and have got this vision for creating demand. I guess, two questions. Why do you feel that it was important to create demand, and how did you do it?
I felt that it was important to create demand to drive growth.
But why not just get people banging the phone to drive growth like everyone else does? Why not just hire more people that can make more phone calls and work off the basic maths of you put this much out there and this is what you can make?
Because if they're pounding the phones and putting it out there proactively, but then people then go to your website and it looks rubbish, or your LinkedIn pages, both company and individual, are rubbish. I just didn't feel like going out and knocking on doors didn't feel right to me until we got our own house in order in terms of how I wanted the company to look and feel.
Right. So then what did you want it to look? How did you want it to look and feel? What were the words you wanted people to describe the business by?
I wanted it to look and feel contemporary. I guess I didn't want it to look like kind of old school traditional search firm type feel. I wanted to embrace the evolution of AI, which had really kind of kicked in at the beginning of last year in the mainstream. You know, everyone was kind of aware of what ChatGPT was by then and sort of getting involved. So I wanted to really push the boundaries in terms of what AI could do from an operational perspective and from a sort of a teach perspective, but it always had to be capped at when the human element kicks in. It's always human first, outbound reach. We would never then or now sort of spam email or in-mail with AI gen stuff. Yeah, we might get it to sort of help us to create a narrative around an organization that we might be working with, but we'll always deliver that in a personal sense. So I wanted that to be as cutting edge as it could be. And I don't mean cutting edge. We're not talking kind of rocket science here, but it just felt like there was an opportunity to be able to do more in that regard. And yeah, I wanted to bring those elements, a care and a passion for doing the best possible job possible with a hardworking attitude. And then this big 3-letter word dolloped on top of it for everyone to see, which is the element of fun. If you go onto my LinkedIn profile, you'll see quite a lot of video content there. Some of it has received some good feedback. Some of it has not. But that was also something that we were doing that we felt at that time and still is quite a bit different in this world of AI where everyone's writing blogs and you can't really tell anymore whether someone's written it or whether it's AI generated. But what you bet your bottom dollar is that probably 80% of it hasn't been written. How do you make how do you come across authentic? How do you allow your audience to buy into the fact that you've been doing this a while and you seem like you actually know what you're talking about and you're credible? Yeah. And I felt the only way to do that really was through video content. And that was new. I'd never really kind of done that before. It was awkward. I made some shocking videos that didn't make it to air, believe it or not. Some people don't think that we have any quality control in that regard, but I believe it or not, we do. But again, it's all about this personal. You need this personal, authentic feel, I believe, and we have been received positively as a result of that. I've been invited and been on a panel speaking for a local media firm on that point alone because of how they believe that's what we should have been doing. They didn't tell me that at the time. I'd just done it. And again, kind of relying a little bit on intuition. And they were resonating, saying this is exactly what people should be doing. And then, next thing I'm on I'm on on a panel talking about video marketing content in front of a bunch of marketing people.
How has it impact? So how have you won clients?
Why am I here?
What impact have you? How has it brought customers in or impacted customers in a way that you've seen an ROI?
It's impacted in a couple of ways. In that we've had inbound. Only recently, I would say, in terms of like quality inbound leads. Yeah. What it helped with was ensuring that my network was aware of where I was and exactly what I was doing and what I stood for. But also what really surprised me was we'd started doing a podcast series of our own. We're only one episode in, but what's really shocked us was how that enabled us to give such a positive insight to candidates that were looking at going to work for this client that I'd done the podcast with, because it gave a real personal feel for what the culture's like in that organization. So, next thing, this thing's kind of snowballed, and we've got an intent. We're doing this to want to drive awareness and to ultimately drive inbound leads.
Yeah.
What we're actually doing is helping us to be able to give people that we're approaching for roles that we're working on a level of comfort around the culture of the organization that we did that podcast with as well.
Yeah. I love it. You talk a lot, like you've put quite a lot out there that I've been able to pull from and to understand you before the show and how you think, which again, doesn't come when people don't share. So like, I know even you don't drink to me straight away. Like, these things about me because of my online presence, right?
Yeah.
You've talked a lot about how like recruitment has become fragmented and transactional. They're two words you've used in the past. Like when did you first notice that shift, and what do you think that actually looks like from the inside of an agency?
In what regards are you considering fragmented? Just to ensure.
You've publicly said through content and through your voice that part of the reason you set the business up and what you're trying to do is not be transactional, right?
Yep.
And I think the industry's splitting really aggressively right now, right?
Okay.
I think I talk about trust versus commodity.
Yep.
Exec search firms, share prices are growing. Big, large recruitment agencies are dropping like wildfire. And the reason is, I think, based on what you've said, I think there's the transactional recruitment agency is going to be automated out of existence in the next few years. Like, so when did you first, or is that what you felt? Maybe I've misinterpreted what you've been saying.
No, I agree. Ultimately, I believe, and I hope that this doesn't change in my lifetime, that recruitment is a personal business. It's a people business. It's a rapport business. It's a having these conversations business. Obviously, AI is coming in, and none of us really know what kind of impact that's going to have on the long term. But it shouldn't replace that human element. And I think what's important, and what the value that you get from organizations like Strong Search and of similar sizes is, we can plug into existing companies, either because they don't have a talent team, or if they've got a talent team that doesn't have network reach in a certain area, or maybe they're in a situation where they're struggling with bandwidth. We can come in and plug and play and be an extension of those teams. But to do that, we need to manage various stakeholders. We need to be able to work with the talent team. We need to be able to work with the hiring management, and obviously then the leadership as well. And that's got to be pretty tricky to do on a transactional level, I would have thought. Here's an example, right? I had a conversation with the CRO of one of my clients today, who said to me that they were aware of an individual that might be going in to run a very, very, very large division within SAP. And I know this person, and he's like, that'd be great. There'd be loads of revenue there. And I'm like, that's not who we are. That's not what we do. Like, yes, there's going to be loads of revenue opportunity there, but our value is helping small, medium-sized businesses that really need to, they need to understand. They need a company that can go and identify the right people, send the right message, be an extension of that organization. And the thought of working with that big, large organization where, there could be millions of pounds worth of revenue opportunities there, but it'll be another bum on another seat. And it won't make any difference to that organization, whether you put someone absolutely mint in there or you put someone who's rubbish. It won't make any difference to that organization. That's not what it's about for us. And so
you would actively not chase that work and not,
correct,
not work on it.
No,
that's that's huge.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's not a mistake, but it's about what we stand for, and I think that's more important. And I'll die on that hill if I have to, but ultimately it's knowing about our place and our purpose and it's also what we enjoy, right? If we're not enjoying what we do, we're not going to do as good a job. And you can't always pick and choose what you do. But you can have, what I've learned in this last year is you can have an influence over your destiny, and you can actually sort of make a conscious decision around what you do want to do and what you don't want to do.
Yeah. You talk about 100%. You talk about 100% placement retention and satisfaction.
Yes.
Stat. I can see it behind you on that billboard. Those numbers don't happen if you're taking on the wrong work, right? So does that feed directly into what you've just said?
Yes.
Like in order,
100%.
Yeah.
Because if you take any role that's going, then sooner or later you're going to get caught out, because you're going to take on a role with a company that wants to buy a Ferrari, so to speak, that can't afford a Ferrari. And then sooner or later, people are going to get upset. It could be the candidates on the basis that they were told that the money was going to be X, but actually it's not.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But ultimately, you will know up front, or the benefit of having the sort of level of experience that I've got is you can look at an opportunity, or you look at a requirement of what we're being asked to do, and know whether you think that is legitimate or not. And we'll be open with that. And if we're in, we're in.
Yeah.
But we won't go in unless we're confident that A, we can deliver, and B, that when we deliver, that company can convert and bring that person on board, so that individual is happy. It's not about bums on seats. Like the thought of sending bulk emails or emails with a job spec attached going, hey, look at this, have we got the role for you? Like, sure, that will get quick results. And if you want a bunch of people to interview in 3 days' time, then that's going to work. But that isn't going to guarantee you 100% placement retention. You have to make sure that you've understood that individual and their motivations and what is important to them before you even start talking about the role that you've got. Because how do you know if it's relevant until you know what's important to them? So there's a lot that we go to a lot of effort up front, and if to qualify all of this before we even take on the role. And I remember speaking with a venture capitalist in May last year, and she'd said, look, I've been in your situation, and I think what you're going to learn over the coming year is what's more important is what you say no to than what you say yes to. And she was right. I kind of felt like I was aware of that to a degree.
Have you made the wrong decision in this year though? Have you maybe took on a few things that you shouldn't, or any obvious howlers where you've gone, learn from that? I
mean, look, I've taken on, I took on a couple of particularly challenging opportunities that took a lot of work, in no way profitable in terms of the amount of time that was invested for the outcome and the fee that came from it. But they came from somebody that I've known for a very long time, who was kind enough to recommend our services. The companies themselves are cool and they're good people. And and this is the whole point. Like, this is not a transactional business. It's not about bums on seats. We went the extra mile. We probably did 3 times the amount of work than the fee gave us the credit for, but we did it. We didn't give up, and that's going to lead to something sooner or later, whether it's with that organization or whatever. So could you look back and go, well, was that a mistake? I will argue no. And then there's been a couple of organizations that I've spoken to, and I've thought, I don't think this is going to be a good use of our time for various different reasons.
And you've told them?
Yeah. Or I've sort of priced accordingly to the work that I thought was required, that, ultimately didn't make necessarily our commercials as attractive as they wanted them to be. But, I felt like they were fair to, in line with the amount of work that was going to be required.
So where we are today, look, you started in your garden.
Who knows? I don't think it was.
If we look at where you are now, a year in, you started a strong search in a garden shed. Yeah, you had a couple of investors backing you. I think 39 placements in year 1, 100% retention, $1 million in revenue. How you just, I'm also reading you've just hired, is it Larry in the MD of North America?
Yep.
How do you feel about, like, how I told you, I asked you how you felt after a month, but how are you feeling a year in? What words would you describe the emotion that's attached to it?
Excited, proud. I tend to have an issue of just focusing on what I need to be doing and running as fast as I can, and then not stopping and going, wow. So we had a little celebration for our first year anniversary, which forced me to do that, which was great. And yeah, now I feel excited about Larry coming in. I've known him for over a decade. We did a lot of work together at Coupa Software. And so, my focus is to continue to support the team here, to support Larry and his enablement. And we will continue to deliver from here for now. But the midterm plan is to then build out the team in the US. So proud, excited, focused on what needs to be done, and still a little bit like pinching myself, thinking how have we got here?
I feel like you've explained how you got here, though, pretty clearly. Like,
I know, but
you identified a business plan. You had pretty modest goals. You negotiated out of you were there for a long time. You negotiated out in a way that allowed you to reach out to your network, which not everyone can do. You did that. You brought in work early on that brought in immediate cash flow. You've got an incredible standard to the work that you're going to work on, which raises the fee, but the bar of fees, plus means you're probably going to fill almost everything you work on. Yeah. And then you've built good people around you, slowly but methodically, so that, it's a really clever way of going at it that I see more and more commonly now in the businesses I work with, the businesses that I like to interview and I like to hang out with, it is that trust versus commodity. Like, you're building a trust-led business, an influence-led
100%.
business.
Yes.
You're not driving this on pure effort. This is influence. Like, the more you now elevate this podcast and you speak at scale and your video content's out there and you're meeting people and you're turning things down and you're sharing it, you're trying to help people on a macro level.
Yeah.
It's going to compound, mate. Like, that's going to compound at a level that wasn't possible in the past.
That's certainly, when I say, like, how did we get here? It's more like you just think that how's that? That's all just happened so quickly. But of course, there's work, there's effort, there's plan. The mic. There's a lot of attention goes into it, and trust is absolutely at the forefront of that. But equally, I now feel pressure because we've had such a good first year. But that's gone now. That's in the past. And now the pressure is on for year two to kind of eclipse that. And I don't want to sort of double everything because it's year two.
That is my final question around the business model and where you're headed. Where are you? If we brought you back on in April next year, which I think I'd probably like to do, where will you be in an ideal world?
Ideally, we will be. If we can be at around £1.5, then that would be good. With good profit, with everybody still in the team and happy and motivated and as driven as they are now. My guys are awesome. They care about this company as much as I do, if not more. And I feel very lucky for that. So the challenge will be to continue to grow and to bring new people into the organization and maintain that, because obviously, the longer that goes on and the bigger you get, the harder it is to hold on to that sort of core essence, if you like. And yeah, I'd like the US team is established, that we've got. Yeah, it's the same model as what it was going to be last year of 2 or 3 people.
Would that impact the work that you're doing here eventually, though? That you would stop delivering into the US from the UK, they would own that, and then you would divert attention?
I don't know. Ultimately, there will come a time where that could be an issue, but I think we're at least sort of 2 or 3 years away from that. What we've proven is that we can deliver high quality from here. We proved that in our previous company, to be fair, as well. So 60% of our revenue has come from hiring in the US, and half of that it has been for US-based software companies. So we don't have to hire people in the US. We can do it from here, but the challenge has been where we've had large volumes of roles come in is then just managing the time zone side of things. And the team have then gone on to work very long hours, which isn't sustainable. And so there will be a natural kind of evolution, and you'll see a sort of split at the revenue and kind of shift a bit. But that's okay. There's plenty to go around. There's plenty of business in the US for the US team. There's plenty of business in the European market. For us here. So yeah, I'll be focusing on just driving that for the course of this year. And as I say, if we're sat here a year from now and we've got 2 or 3 people on the ground in the US, and that's a nice, profitable business unit in its own right, with the UK team, maybe another 1, 2, maybe 3 people on top, depending on how our sort of H1 goes, then that will be, again, that to me will be as big a victory in our second year as this one's been in our first.
And is it only people with experience you're bringing in that are already previously, they know what they're doing?
No, I've actually got a meeting with a guy about to graduate from Bournemouth University. I'm going to meet him next week. Up until now, everyone that's come in has come in with experience, to some degree. But I'm not wedded to that. I want us to also be a good employer to the local community here. I'm passionate about there being this kind of office mentality where it's hybrid. I wanted to create an environment where people want to be, but also I'm not going to chain them to the desk. I don't expect them to be here 5 days a week or 4. Well, I don't even put a number on it. We've got Alice, who's got a young family. She'll come in once a week, but I want to be able to build an environment and a team of people here locally as well that is younger people that maybe have an interest in recruitment as an idea or as a pathway for their career, but they have little or no experience, and to have the right sort of environment and team around them to be able to bring them in, train them, support them, enable them. And I think longer term that is my preferred strategy. Not against bringing people in with experience, but it can get hard to find the right people that you need when when you need them.
And you can build a real culture if you get it right.
It's about balance.
This is my final question then. Is what? No, I've got two more, but I've got to go. So final two, really quick. What is have you got an end game in mind? So you've got the 1 year plan. Have you got like a long-term plan of where what the whole thing's growing towards?
Definitely sort of 4 or 5 years from now, we want to be well established in North America and here in the UK. I'm undecided yet about whether to have an entity in or on mainland Europe. And then when we're at that point, I would like to sit down with people that have an interest from an equity perspective and ask them what they want to do. And really that be a kind of shared collaborative decision. I'm not getting any younger. And so, I'm not ruling any kind of eventuality out really in terms of what could happen, whether that is to continue for another 10 years, or whether we get to 5 and say, look, let's see what's about, and if we're in a position where we're an attractive acquisition to an organization, what they might be prepared to offer. But that will be a collaborative decision, unless for some reason, like there's some unforeseen health problem or whatever that I'm hoping not to have to endure.
Yeah.
Then that'll be a team decision. And a lot of the people that have been pivotal to what has been achieved over the last year are the very people that I'm sort of talking about wanting to have that conversation with when that time comes around.
Amazing. Exciting. All right. Final question is, if someone else is listening to this in the position you were before, perhaps that therapist, maybe personally, professionally, been in the recruitment agency a long time, doubts themselves, what would you say to them?
Talk to people talk to people in the industry first and foremost. And if you've got any kind of mentor or people that have had success, demonstrable success, to share ideas with them. Firstly, I would talk to someone externally as well, which I wouldn't have known before last year, but now I do. And I mean, ultimately, the biggest thing is backing yourself. When you take a step back and look at achievements that you've had throughout your career and through your lifetime, that should be enough to resonate for you to then believe that you can go and do that. Absolutely, you need to have a plan. You need to run that plan by a few people. The people that I'm working with now weren't the only ones from an investment capacity that I'd spoken to, and I spoke to quite a few different people and got feedback on certain bits, and some were like, "Yeah, that's cool. Don't call me, I'll call you," type thing, and you kind of take it on the chin a little bit, and it feels like a bit of a rejection, but you just keep going. But yeah, the main thing is lean on the resources that are there around you. It's not cheating to go and speak to people and get their intel. We have this kind of British way, which I've seen and I understand, but I've never really got around being very proud and not wanting to ask for help, or if someone's being successful, taking the time to sort of dig in and understand, have you done that? And like just being inquisitive and curious and learning. I see no shame in that. Like if someone's got a great idea and I can learn from it, I'm going to do that. And I would. The chap that's coming in that's interested in the world of recruitment, whether we're the right place for him or not, we'll see. But, they're the sorts of things that I would like to pass on to him and to anyone else that's watching, if that's going to help them.
If anyone does want to reach out to you, I'll make sure you're tagged in everything on LinkedIn, and feel free. I'm sure you'll give them a bit of time. Andy, we've run out of time, but I want to say thanks for being so open, so vulnerable at times, but also so clear with how you've done what you've done. I think it's really, and I think people can listen to this episode and go, do you know what? That it all makes sense. You're building a premium business. You're clearly you've got real passion and a values-led approach. You're not building something for the short term. There's a direction that you're heading based on quality over quantity. Everything screams the business that's going to survive and thrive in today's era. So I want to say well done, and I definitely want to get you back on in a year's time and see how year 2 goes, if you'll have me.
Thank you, Sean. It'd be a pleasure.
Thanks so much. Thanks again for listening to today's episode of the RAG podcast. If you haven't already, please do subscribe wherever you listen to this show. As the more subscribers we get, the more people will listen and the more recruitment owners we can help. As a recruitment founder, you must know that things are changing. AI is everywhere. Cold outreach is getting harder, and job boards, well, they're not what they used to be. But personally, despite the negativity, I believe the future is the greatest opportunity of our lifetime in recruitment, because for the first time ever, a founder with 5 recruiters with a clear niche and the right systems can build the kind of influence, reach, and profitability that used to take 500 recruiters and a global office network. The agencies that are winning right now aren't necessarily the biggest, but they are the most visible, the most trusted, and the ones building inbound demand. At Hoxo, we're working with clients who are running multiple 6 and 7 figures in net profit, outperforming the negative noise and headlines. So, to explain what these guys are doing, I've created a brand new free masterclass video for RAG listeners. In this video, it's less than 10 minutes long. I'm going to show you what these businesses are doing differently from the rest. So the link's in the description. Fill in the form, watch the video, and see exactly how this system that these clients are using could work for your agency. Good luck.